You know, it's a curious thing, isn't it? How you stumble upon something, a phrase, a sentence, a video, and a whisper of intuition. And for some inexplicable reason, it meets you exactly where you are. People imagine they arrive at moments like these through effort, or intention, or the grinding machinery of their ambitions. But in truth, you drift here by a kind of cosmic playfulness, as if the universe, or whatever name you want to give that mischievous rhythm, has nudged you gently on the shoulder and said, "Look here, something in you is stirring," and perhaps you felt it, that subtle shift, like the air just before a storm, or the low hum you hear in your bones before you realize you've changed. You didn't see this by accident, because consciousness, my friend, doesn't stumble, it dances. And the wolf in you, yes, that ancient, untamed pulse within the human spirit, that fierce clarity you've tried to domesticate for years, is beginning to rise, not with violence, not with teeth or hunger, but with an awareness so sharp it cuts away illusions like sunlight slicing through mist. That wolf isn't a predator. No, it's the part of you that simply refuses to be prey to your own thoughts, your fears, or the expectations of a world that has forgotten its own nature. But before we go too far with this wolf, let's take a breath together, in through the nose, gently, like you're sipping reality, and out through the mouth, like you're giving it back with gratitude. You see, everything changes the moment you breathe with awareness, the moment breath becomes something you notice. The curtain between you and your truest self begins to dissolve. Most people breathe as if they're apologizing to life for existing. They sip tiny, shallow breaths, like prisoners, rationing hope. But you right now, you're remembering that breath is not merely oxygen. It is a reminder that the universe is moving through you, in and out, in perfect rhythm, like waves, like wind in an empty valley, like a wolf pacing under a moonlit sky. And this wolf, this rising thing, is not a call to aggression that's far too small and far too human. No, it is a call to presence, to that wild, unfiltered awareness that isn't clouded by the noise of civilization. A wolf does not ask for permission to be what it is. It simply is. It flows with the forest, with the hunt, with the night, with the cracking of branches under its paws. It knows, without ever thinking about knowing. And you, whether you've noticed or not, are remembering what it feels like to be that natural. Somewhere along the way, perhaps years ago, perhaps this morning, you began losing the instinctual clarity of being alive. You traded it, maybe unknowingly, for the illusion of control, for the comfort of routines, for the small cage of who you think you should be. People love cages. Actually, they decorate them, polish the bars, hang inspirational quotes on them, and then complain about feeling trapped. The wolf in you has been sleeping beneath all of that, not dead, not gone, simply waiting for the moment you'd grow tired of the cage's familiarity. And today, something cracks. A bar loosened, a lock rusted through, a restless thought stirring at the edge of your awareness. I am more than this. But notice not more in the way ego wants more. Ego wants to be bigger, louder, more significant, more important than others. But the wolf doesn't want significance. It wants authenticity. It wants freedom. It wants alignment with the simple truth of existence. It doesn't wish to dominate. It wishes to awaken. When I say wolf, I'm not speaking in the language of archetypes or psychology. Leave that to dear Mr. Jung a wonderful fellow, truly, but his world is one of symbols and meanings and maps of the psyche, a Richtterrain. Yet the wolf I speak of is older than maps, older than symbols, older even than the mind that seeks to understand itself. It is the awareness that exists before your thoughts arise, that silent vibration within you that has never been wounded, never been broken, never been stained by the dramas of your life. It is the part of you that life cannot crush because it was never made of anything crushable. You may think that life has broken you, but that is only because you confuse your identity with the fragile mask you wear. The wolf sees right through that. You know, you're a bit like water. Yes, water, and water cannot be broken. You can smash ice, but it only changes shape. You can try to crush waves, but they only slip between your fingers. You can destroy the container, but the water simply finds another path, another form, another way of being. This wolf in you flows like that. It knows how to adapt, to shift, to let go, to reshape itself without ever losing its essence. Maybe that's why life has felt strange lately. Perhaps you've noticed things falling away, relationships, habits, illusions, toxic attachments, fears you coddled for too long. People call it loss, but I think that's a rather dramatic word, don't you? What if it's simply the shedding of fur that no longer keeps you warm? The wolf doesn't cling to the old winter coat when spring arrives. It lets it fall from its body, strand by strand, without sentiment, without nostalgia, without the heavy sigh of someone who believes life owes them stability. The universe, you see, is not trying to make you comfortable. It's trying to make you conscious. And when consciousness expands, truly expands, it often feels like chaos. Not because the world is falling apart, but because the walls of the cage are. The wolf stretches its limbs, yawns, steps forward into territory it has always belonged to but had forgotten. And that can feel unsettling, particularly if you've spent most of your life trying to stay small, polite, agreeable, predictable, trying to avoid disappointing anyone. How exhausting that must have been, to shrink yourself into a shape that others find acceptable, to muzzle your own instincts, to hide your power because someone once told you it was too much. But the wolf in you does not apologize for existing, nor does it ask for permission to grow. Let's sit with this for a moment. Not intellectually, that's just the mind playing with toys again. Feel it. Feel the subtle rising inside you, that gentle hum in your chest, that expanding spaciousness behind your thoughts, that alertness, quiet but undeniably alive. Like the moment right before dawn when everything is still dark but the world knows the sun is on its way. This rising is not anger. It is not rebellion. It is not defiance. It is awakening. Awakening from the dream that you are separate from life, that you must fight your way through existence, that you must earn your right to be here. What nonsense! A tree never apologizes for growing upward. A river never hesitates before flowing downward. A wolf never wonders if it is worthy of the moonlight. You too are part of the same dance, the same rhythm, the same ancient pulse. Life is not something happening to you. Life is something happening through you. But we forget. Oh, how easily we forget. We get tangled in roles, stories, ambitions, worries, fears. We become characters in a play we didn't even realize we had auditioned for. And then one morning, perhaps today, you wake up and think, this isn't who I am anymore. And that thought, that tiny whisper, is the wolf rising, not to cause destruction, but to dissolve illusion, not to howl at enemies, but to reclaim silence, not to dominate the world, but to walk through it without losing yourself. What people call strength is often nothing more than tension. What people call courage is often nothing more than stubbornness. But real power, the kind that flows from the wolf, is soft, unforced, effortless, like water, like breath, like wind, sliding between mountains. You can feel it, can't you, right now? In the space between these words, something in you is loosening, uncoiling, softening, and yet becoming more alive than it has been in years. Let it happen. Don't analyze it. Don't label it. Don't turn it into a self-help project. Just allow, because awakening is not an achievement, it's a remembering. You are remembering that you are not here to live in fear. You are not here to be tamed by expectations. You are not here to shrink for anyone's comfort. You are not here to be prey to your own thoughts. You are here to awaken into the natural clarity of your being, into the wildness that isn't violent, but free, into the presence that isn't aggressive, but unshakably calm. The wolf in you is simply returning home. You see, the beautiful paradox of awakening is that it never feels like you're becoming something new. No, awakening feels more like a homecoming, like stepping into a version of yourself that has always been there, hidden beneath years of noise. And when you begin to sense this rising, this wolf stirring within you, there is often a moment of hesitation, a moment when the mind says, wait, what's happening? Why am I changing? Because the mind loves patterns, routines, predictability. It loves to believe it is the master of the house. But the mind, delightful as it is more like a guest, a clever visitor who arrived late in the evolution of life and believes it owns the place simply because it can talk about it. And the wolf is the host, the ancient, wordless intelligence that has been guiding your being long before thought existed. That deep intuition, that spontaneous knowing, that fluid response to life, all of that comes from the host, not the guest. So when the wolf rises, the mind panics a little. It wonders if it will lose its throne. But the wolf is not here to overthrow anything. It's here to remind the mind that it is not a king, only a storyteller. And the stories you've been telling yourself lately, perhaps they've grown a bit stale, a bit cramped, a bit unworthy of your true nature. Stories like, I must be who others expect me to be. I should stay silent to keep the peace. I need permission to be myself. I have to earn my value. These are the kinds of stories the mind repeats like a nervous musician improvising the same melody for too many years. Safe, predictable, uninspired. But the wolf doesn't play that tune. The wolf hears the larger symphony, the one composed by existence itself, where every being, from a falling leaf to a rising star, moves with perfect spontaneity. And you, my friend, are being invited back into that music, because when you stop identifying with the stories and begin listening to the silence behind them, something astonishing happens. You start responding to life the way water does when it meets an obstacle flowing around it, over it, under it, reshaping itself effortlessly. You stop trying to force life into your plans and begin to let life move through you. That is what the rising wolf truly represents. Not aggression, but fluidity, not rebellion, but alignment, not force, but presence. Presence is a strange thing. Most people imagine it as stillness, as if one must sit like a statue to be present. But presence is actually movement, a dance, a rhythm, a participation in the moment. Imagine a wolf walking through the forest. Every paw step is present. Every sound is heard in its fullness. Every scent is read. like a secret letter. The wolf does not think, I must be mindful now. It simply is mindful because it has not been taught to forget itself the way humans have. Humans forget themselves constantly. They forget their breath, their bodies, their senses, their intuition. They forget the vast ocean of silence that surrounds every thought. They forget they are not the voice in their head, but the space in which the voice speaks. And that space, that vast inner sky, is where the wolf lives. Now imagine this. The moment you stop resisting who you are becoming, the moment you stop grasping at who you used to be, you slip naturally into that space. You become spacious, light, unburdened. Not because your problems disappear, but because you stop identifying with the inner narrator who claims ownership of them. A problem only becomes a problem when you take it personally. A fear only grows teeth when you feed it with belief. A cage only confines you if you forget that the door is unlocked. The wolf remembers, and so right now, whether you realize it fully or not, you are remembering. You are remembering that the self you defend so fiercely, the image, the identity, the persona, is only a mask, and masks can be taken off without harming the face beneath. In fact, taking off the mask allows the face to finally breathe. Have you ever watched a river flow over rocks? It never resists the shape of the stones. It doesn't try to push the rocks out of its way. It simply flows, curls, swerves, finds new patterns. That is what the rising wolf teaches. Don't fight the obstacles, dance with them. Don't brace yourself against life, move with it. Most suffering comes not from what happens to us, but from the rigidity with which we meet life. The wolf teaches suppleness, adaptability, openness, and you're beginning to feel that, aren't you? There's a subtle shift in your posture, a softening around your eyes, a tension melting from your chest, a little more breath entering the body, a little more space between your thoughts. That is the wolf's rising. Not loud, not violent, not dramatic, but inevitable. Let me tell you a little secret. Life has been trying to get your attention for quite some time. Through discomfort, through intuition, through synchronicity, through the quiet voice that whispers at night. There is more to you than this. But you were busy surviving, busy proving, busy pretending, busy carrying the expectations of others like a stack of heavy stones you never asked for. And now, slowly, gracefully, you are putting those stones down. We humans love to believe we must carry the world on our shoulders. But the wolf carries nothing. It trusts instinct. It trusts the wind. It trusts the path under its feet. It trusts the unseen intelligence of nature. When you begin to trust life in this way, not blindly, but intimately, you discover that the universe is not working against you. It is choreographing your awakening with exquisite precision. Even this moment, you listening now, is part of that choreography. You see, life isn't a straight line. It isn't a ladder or a staircase or a race with a finish line. Life is a river, a rhythm, a Tao, a movement without beginning or end. And the wolf in you is rising not to take you somewhere else, but to bring you back to the effortless flow of being. People often imagine awakening as becoming something more. But in truth, awakening is becoming something less rigid, less fearful, less identified, less controlled. When the wolf rises, you become less of the artificial and more of the natural. Nature is not anxious. Nature is not self-conscious. Nature is not trying to fix itself. It simply is. What a relief, isn't it? To realize you don't have to fix yourself. You only have to stop interfering with your own being. Breathe for a moment. Just breathe. Feel the air entering your body without effort. Feel the body being breathed, as if life itself is doing the work for you. Because you have never breathed yourself. Breathing happens through you. Thoughts happen through you. Life happens through you. And the wolf rises when you stop insisting on controlling what was never yours to control. You might notice, even now, that something inside you is loosening, a hatred of tension you carried for years, a heaviness that now feels optional. That is the wolf reclaiming space in your consciousness. A consciousness not burdened by names or identities or histories, but alive, alert, present, and deeply, deeply free. Maybe you've spent too long silencing this part of you. Not because you feared the wolf, but because others feared it. People are always frightened of the self they cannot control. They prefer you predictable, obedient, quiet, agreeable. And so you learn to hide your instincts, your clarity, your power. But power, real power, is not dominance. It is not force. It is awareness. It is the freedom to respond without being controlled by fear. The wolf in you is not rising to make you stronger in the way society defines strength. It is rising to make you authentic, to make you whole, to make you fluid, to make you alive, to make you natural again. You might feel a shift in your sense of time. Too, like the past is losing its sharpness, and the future doesn't feel so heavy. That's because when you awaken, you step out of psychological time and into the living present. And in the present, nothing is ever missing. Nothing is ever broken. Nothing is ever incomplete. The wolf knows only the now. The forest knows only the now. The wind knows only the now. And so do you once you remember. Now imagine yourself standing in a clearing, perhaps at dusk, perhaps under the first rising stars. Imagine the forest breathing around you. Imagine a quiet confidence growing in your belly, not a roar, not a thunderclap, but a warm, steady flame. Feel that flame, feel it flicker, feel it rise without rush, without force. That is you returning to yourself. That is the wolf awakening. That is life remembering you, as you remember it. And as this remembering unfolds, something subtle yet profound begins to take place within you, a dissolving, not a destruction, not a breaking, but a gentle melting away of the tensions you once believed were necessary for survival. You see, the human tendency is to cling to ideas, roles, identities, fears, and expectations as if they were life rafts in a stormy sea. But you were never in a storm. You were only dreaming one. The wolf in you knows this. It stands at the edge of the forest and looks out, not with panic, but with curiosity, with presence, with a knowing that whatever comes, it will meet it with fluidity, not resistance. And this fluidity, this flowing, listening, sensing, responding is what frees you from the exhausting burden of trying to control life. Imagine a leaf floating downstream. It never tries to push the water. It never insists on choosing the direction of the river. Yet somehow, it always arrives exactly where it needs to be. The wolf lives the same way. It does not need certainty to feel safe, because real safety is not the absence of chaos. It is the presence of awareness. You are beginning to sense that awareness now, aren't you? That shift from thinking to observing, from reacting to listening, from contracting to expanding. It's not something you do. It's something you allow. Life is always trying to guide you back into the effortless rhythm of being. But the mind that's helpful but often overly talkative guest keeps insisting it must handle everything. Sometimes I imagine the mind as a frantic conductor standing in front of an orchestra that is already playing perfectly without him. He waves his arms wildly, trying to control the music, shouting that without him the whole thing would collapse, while the violins, the flutes, the drums, the cellos all look at one another thinking, "We've been playing together for billions of years. Dear fellow, we know what we're doing." Life is the orchestra. The wolf is the music. The mind is simply a commentator sitting in the front row, convinced it's running the show. But right now, as you listen, you're beginning to notice something extraordinary. The commentator is losing its authority, not because you're pushing it away, but because you're no longer enthralled by it. You're hearing the silence behind the words. You're noticing the stillness between breaths. You're feeling the life beneath your thoughts. And in that silence, the wolf steps forward. What a fascinating thing it is, this stepping forward. It doesn't feel like aggression. It doesn't feel like rebellion. It feels like clarity, like the sudden shift in vision when clouds part and you can finally see the mountains in their full majesty. They were there all along, but your awareness had been fogged by noise. When the wolf rises, you see yourself with that same clarity, not as who you think you should be, not as who others told you must be, not as the character in your story, but as the consciousness experiencing it all, the consciousness that is older than your memories, older than your wounds, older than your name, older than the mind itself. You are not the character, you are the awareness of the character, and the wolf rises the moment you realize this. Now, this realization brings an interesting transformation. You begin to notice that the parts of your life that once caused suffering, the conflicts, the disappointments, the fears, the uncertainties seem to lose their sharpness. They don't disappear. Life isn't in the business of polishing reality into perfection, but they lose their ability to imprison you. A wolf in a forest may encounter storms, but it does not cower from them. It moves within them, trusting the larger intelligence of nature to guide its steps. You too are learning to do this, to trust the intelligence of life rather than the anxieties of the mind. This trust does not come from belief. Belief is fragile. Belief needs reinforcement. Belief can be broken. Trust arises naturally when you recognize that you are life, not separate from it, not in conflict with it, not struggling against it. You are the universe expressing itself as a human being, just as the wolf is the universe expressing itself as instinct, presence, wildness, and clarity. And so, when you feel something rising within you, a boldness, a calmness, a freedom you cannot quite explain, that is not rebellion. It is alignment. It is the universe reclaiming a bit more space inside you. Let's explore this space for a moment. Close your eyes if you wish, or simply soften your gaze. Notice the sensation in your chest, the gentle warmth in your belly, the hum of your body, always vibrating, always alive. Notice how awareness itself expands the moment you pay attention. It is like lighting a candle in a dark room. The flame does not need effort to illuminate. It simply shines, and the darkness does not fight it. It simply fades. This is the wolf's way, not conquering darkness, but illuminating it, not fighting shadows, but seeing through them. And you are beginning to see through the shadows you once mistook for truth. Shadows like the fear of not being enough, the fear of disappointing others, the fear of standing alone, the fear of your own power. But the wolf does not fear solitude. The wolf does not fear authenticity. The wolf does not fear its own nature, because it knows it belongs to the whole. You, too, belong, not in the fragile, the conditional way. Humans often imagine I belong if I succeed, if I behave, if I please, if I shrink myself to fit. No, no, you belong because you exist, because existence chose to express itself through you, and that alone is enough. Let the weight of that truth settle gently into your bones. You belong to the universe, in the same way a star belongs to the night sky, a wave belongs to the ocean, a breath belongs to the body. The wolf rises when you finally allow that belonging to be felt rather than understood. You see, this rising is not an event. It is a process, a movement, a returning. It begins as a tremor, a faint whisper in the soul, and grows into an unwavering awareness that says, I cannot continue living as a smaller version of myself. This does not mean you become louder, or more impressive, or more heroic by conventional standards. No, quite the opposite. You become keener inside, more spacious, more natural, more aligned with the present moment, like a wolf who does not need to prove its strength, because its strength is woven into its being. Strength, in the wolf's world, is not dominance. It is presence. It is the ability to stand still, to sense, to listen, to act without hesitation and without regret. Humans spend so much time questioning themselves that they forget how to exist simply, but awakening is simplicity. Not the simplicity of lack, but the simplicity of truth. And the truth is this: you don't need to earn your nature. You don't need to explain your awakening. You don't need validation to rise. You simply rise because the time has come. Life has seasons, and you are entering a new one, a season where instinct and awareness merge, where softness and power coexist, where your presence becomes your guidance, where the wolf in you walks calmly into the world. Not to fight, but to be. I want you to feel the truth of this, not think about it. Thinking is too slow, too fragmented. Truth must be absorbed, like moonlight through the skin. Let it sink into you that the rising is natural, inevitable, uncontrollable in the most beautiful way. It happens the same way the tide rises, the same way the sun climbs the sky each morning effortlessly. And this rising, this awakening, this return to your essential nature, it is already happening. Right now, in real time, as you listen, you can feel it, can't you? That sense that something old within you is dissolving and something ancient within you is awakening. Something wordless, something wild, something fearless, something utterly, beautifully alive. That is the wolf, and it is rising not to change who you are, but to reveal who you've always been, if you listen closely, not with your ears, but with that quieter, deeper faculty within you. You'll notice that this rising wolf isn't asking you to become stronger, braver, or more extraordinary. No, that's far too theatrical. The wolf is asking you to become simpler, to shed complexity the way a snake sheds its skin, to let go of the unnecessary weight you've carried through years of misunderstanding yourself. You see, we humans are marvelous creators of confusion. We pile layers upon layers of thought on top of life's simple truths until we no longer recognize what is real, what is illusion, and what is merely habit. We confuse tension with discipline, fear with intuition, attachment with love, and noise with meaning. And yet the wolf, that ancient creature of clarity, does not participate in these confusions. It sees what is, just as the moon reflects on still water without altering its shape. The wolf reflects life without distorting it. And you are beginning to learn to reflect life in this way. There is an odd comfort in complexity. People hold on to their problems, identities, grievances, and labels as if they were treasures, because without them they wouldn't know who they are supposed to be. But the wolf has no need for identity. It does not wake up in the morning and think, "What kind of wolf should I be today?" It simply rises. It moves. It breathes. It responds. It exists. This simplicity is what you are awakening into, a simplicity born of presence, a simplicity born of trust, a simplicity born of surrender. Not surrender as defeat, that's the human misunderstanding, but surrender as a release into the natural flow of existence. Imagine a wave surrendering to the ocean. It doesn't vanish. It becomes more itself than ever. This is what happens when you stop resisting life, when you stop forcing yourself into shapes that no longer fit. You return to your nature, which is more fluid, more spacious, more alive than any version of yourself you've ever tried to maintain. And as you return, the world begins to look different, not because the world has changed, but because you are seeing without the filter of fear. Fear clouds perception. Fear adds shadows where none exist. Fear builds stories of danger where only possibility lives. But the wolf sees clearly because it sees without fear. It moves through the forest, not because it knows every path, but because it trusts every step. Trust, what a beautiful word. Not trust as a mental agreement, not trust as naive optimism, but trust as a visceral understanding that life is intelligent. This intelligence is everywhere, in the movement of rivers, in the orbit of planets, in the beating of your heart, in the rising wolf within you. Nothing in the universe struggles to be itself. Only humans do that, and only because they've forgotten that they are expressions of the universe, not separate from it. Your awakening this rising wolf is simply the fading of that forgetting. And as you awaken, something curious happens. Conflicts that once felt enormous now feel strangely small. Expectations that once weighed on you begin to lift like morning mist. Voices that once controlled you lose their authority. Fears that once dictated your choices dissolve into insignificance. You don't fight these things, they simply melt away. Like frost under sunlight, like waves smoothing the edges of a jagged stone. You are experiencing this melting already, the dissolving of old patterns, the loosening of internal knots, the quieting of the anxious mind. It isn't that you've suddenly solved your life. It's that you've stopped believing you were supposed to. Life is not a puzzle to be completed. It is a symphony to be played, a dance to be danced, a river to be flowed with. The wolf dances with the forest, and you are remembering how to dance with life. Let's take a moment to feel this. Not analyze it, not interpret it, feel it. Feel the weight leaving your shoulders. Feel the breath entering your body more freely. Feel the mind loosening its grip, like a fist slowly opening into a palm. Feel that subtle but unmistakable sense of returning to yourself. This returning is not dramatic. It's quiet, soft, deep, like night falling over a forest, like snow settling gently on branches, like the moon rising without announcing itself. The wolf rises the same way, quietly but with absolute certainty. You know, if you watch a wolf pack at dusk, there is a moment when they all stand still. The air changes, the light shifts, something ancient moves through them. They don't speak, they don't discuss, they simply know, and in that knowing, they move as one. It's not thought, it's presence, it's intuition, it's harmony with the unseen intelligence of life. You have that same intelligence, you've always had it. You simply forgot. Because society teaches you to prioritize thought over intuition, noise over silence, ambition over presence, conformity over authenticity. But nothing in nature conforms. Nothing in nature pretends. Nothing in nature seeks permission to exist. A tree grows where it grows. A river flows where it flows. A wolf rises when it rises. And you awaken when you awaken. No explanation needed. No justification required. Your rising is not an act of rebellion, it is an act of remembering. And here's the most beautiful part: when you remember who you are, you no longer need to defend yourself. People misunderstand this. They think awakening makes you tougher, sharper, more aggressive. But true awakening softens you. It softens the ego, softens the fears, softens the inner resistance. But this softness is not weakness. It is the softness of water, and nothing is stronger than water. Water yields, but it overcomes. Water bends, but it persists. Water softens mountains into sand. Water adapts to every shape, yet remains itself. That is the kind of strength the wolf brings into your consciousness. The strength that is flexible, not rigid, flowing, not fighting, open, not defensive. You may even notice a shift in the way you perceive challenge. What once felt like threat now feels like invitation. What once felt like obstacle now feels like part of the path. What once felt overwhelming now feels manageable, even necessary. Because the awakened self doesn't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" but instead whispers, "What is this teaching me about who I really am?" And the wolf guides you toward that question, not with words, but with presence, with instinct, with the quiet confidence of something that has walked through storms before and knows it will walk through them again. The wolf in you does not fear the unknown, because to the wolf, the unknown is home. You've been taught to fear uncertainty, to cling to predictability, to avoid discomfort. But the most extraordinary moments of your life, the ones that transformed you, awakened you, expanded, you happened in the unknown. The unknown is where life invents itself, where possibility awakens, where the wolf hears the call of the moon. And you, right now, are hearing a similar call, not with your ears, but with your being. Something in you is stepping forward into the unknown without trembling. Something in you is releasing the past without regret. Something in you is embracing the present without hesitation. That something is not fragile, not frightened, not confused. It is ancient. It is wise. It is wild. It is free. It is the wolf, and it is rising. And so here we are at the quiet edge of everything you have ever feared and everything you have ever longed for. Not as a destination, not as the end of some heroic quest, but as a moment of deep, resonant présence, a moment where the world softens, the mind loosens, and the truth of your being shines through like moonlight slipping through the branches of an ancient forest. If you listen closely, you may notice that nothing outside has changed. The trees are still trees. The sky is still sky. Your life is still your life, and yet everything feels different. That is the signature of awakening. It is an internal shift so profound that even the smallest details of existence begin to shimmer with meaning. A breath becomes miraculous. A sensation becomes sacred. A simple moment of awareness becomes a portal into infinity. This is what the rising wolf brings, not power in the animalistic sense, not domination, not fearlessness as bravado, but the quiet, unshakable knowledge that you belong to existence, and existence belongs to you. The wolf rises not to conquer the world, but to reunite you with the world, to dissolve the illusion of separation, to return you to the dance you had forgotten you were part of. You see, the wolf is not a symbol of wild aggression. It is a symbol of wild harmony. It moves with the forest, breathes with the wind, listens to the rhythms of the night, and responds without hesitation, without doubt, without the heavy burden of second-guessing. Humans delightful. Anxious creatures often become so tangled in thought that they forget how to live in this natural harmony. But harmony is not something you achieve. Harmony is something you recognize. It is always here, beneath the noise, beneath the tension, beneath the layers of self that you have slowly been shedding through the course of this awakening. The wolf rises when you remember this harmony, and in remembering, you begin to see your life differently. You begin to see that you were never out of alignment. You were merely asleep to the alignment that has always been unfolding. Even your struggles, your heartbreaks, your anxieties, your doubts, all of them were part of the choreography of awakening. They pushed you, stretched you, softened you, tested you, and prepared you for this returning. The wolf within you is not new. It is ancient. It is the consciousness that watched silently while your mind created stories about who you are and who you must be. It is the awareness that sat quietly as you worried, as you doubted, as you tried so desperately to fit into worlds that were too small for the vastness of your nature. And now, as this wolf steps forward into the center of your being, something magnificent happens. The stories begin to dissolve. Stories like, I am not enough. I must prove myself. I must always be strong. I must not disappoint anyone. I cannot show vulnerability. I must hide my true nature to be loved. What beautiful illusions these stories were, intricate, compelling, deeply human. But illusion nonetheless. They were shadows on the cave wall, never the light itself. And now the light has found you, or perhaps it is more accurate to say you have stopped turning away from it. The wolf is the one who walks toward the light, not away from it. Even when the light exposes old wounds, even when it reveals truths you once feared, the wolf does not retreat. It knows that truth does not harm. Only illusion can be harmed. Only masks can crack. Only false identities can decay. Your true self is indestructible. It cannot be broken. It cannot be diminished. It cannot be lost. It can only be forgotten and then remembered. And so the rising wolf is simply the moment of remembering. Now, as you settle deeper into this state of awareness, you may notice something even more profound. The boundaries of you begin to soften. The sense of being a separate individual, a fixed identity contained inside a body, begins to dissolve like mist. This doesn't make you disappear. Quite the opposite. It expands you. You begin to feel the breath of the universe moving through you. Not metaphorically, but literally. Experientially, a bird sings and the sound feels like it echoes within your own chest. A breeze moves and something inside you moves with it. A thought arises, and you watch it with the same calm curiosity with which you would watch a cloud drift across the sky. A sensation appears in the body, and you allow it without trying to name it, fix it, or run from it. This is freedom. Not the freedom to do anything you want. That is merely impulse. But the freedom from being ruled by fear, by thought, by expectation, by the constant, exhausting attempt to be someone. Freedom is the absence of inner resistance. And in the absence of resistance, your true nature flows effortlessly. This effortless flow is what sages throughout history have tried to point to the Tao, the way, the natural unfolding, the dance of life. And the wolf, with its silent grace, is a perfect teacher of the Tao. Watch how a wolf moves not erratically, not wastefully, not anxiously, but with presence in every muscle, presence in every breath. It is not living for the future. It is not regretting the past. It is fully immersed in the only place life ever happens now. You, too, are learning to live in the now, not as an intellectual concept, not as a forced practice, but as a natural state of being. When you truly awaken to the now, something astonishing becomes clear. The now is not a moment. It is an eternal field, a boundless presence, a spacious awareness in which everything appears, dances, and disappears. Your thoughts arise in this field, so do your emotions, so do your sensations, so does your identity, so does the wolf, but the field itself, the awareness, remains untouched, unshaken, unbroken. The rising wolf within you is awakening your awareness of this field. And when this awareness stabilizes, all the things you used to take so seriously, the failures, the judgments, the opinions of others begin to feel strangely unreal, not irrelevant, but less heavy, less consuming, less defining. You begin to live more lightly. This lightness is the essence of Alan Watts' teachings that life is not a problem to be solved, but a game to be played, a dance to be enjoyed, a song to be listened to without trying to control the melody. You are not here to hold everything together. You are here to experience the music, to move with it, to laugh with it, to flow with it. And the wolf in you does not resist this music. It is the music. Now take a slow breath in and out. Notice how life breathes you. Notice how awareness expands effortlessly when you stop forcing it. This is the wolf's presence, not tense, not guarded, not restless, but alert, alive, open, aware. And as this awareness deepens, something extraordinary happens. You stop trying to control life because you finally see that life has always been guiding you. You stop trying to be worthy because you finally see that existence has never questioned your worth. You stop trying to awaken because you realize you were never unawake, only distracted. The rising wolf is not a transformation. It is the end of a misunderstanding, and when misunderstanding ends, a profound peace arises. A peace that does not depend on circumstances, a peace that survives storms, a peace that is not shaken by loss, or fear, or change, a peace that comes from knowing, not believing, that you are the universe, walking in human form, and in this knowing, you walk differently, you speak differently, you breathe differently, you listen differently, you love differently. You stop chasing things that were never meant for you. You stop holding on to things that hurt to hold. You stop shrinking yourself for people who cannot see you. You begin to live as the wolf lives, in truth, in presence, in instinctive harmony with the moment, and without effort, without force, without announcement, and you become whole. Wholeness is not perfection. Wholeness is the end of fragmentation. It is the recognition that every part of you, the light and the shadow, the wildness and the softness, the certainty and the doubt, all of it is part of the same dance. When the wolf rises, you do not become someone else. You become fully, completely, effortlessly yourself. And that, my friend, is the most natural thing in the world. So if you felt drawn to this message, if something in you stirred, expanded, awakened, know that it is not coincidence, not chance, not accident. It is alignment. It is timing. It is the universe whispering through your own intuition. The wolf in you is rising, not to destroy, but to awaken, not to conquer, but to return, not to become more, but to become real. And now, here you stand alive, aware, breathing, spacious, ready to walk into your life with the calm fearlessness of something that finally remembers what it is. The forest awaits you. The moon awaits you. Your path awaits you. Walk it gently. Walk it freely. Walk it naturally. Walk it as the wolf walks, with presence, with clarity, with harmony, and with the quiet, unshakable, knowing that nothing can break you because nothing has ever touched the truth of who you are. The wolf in you is already home.